Hello and welcome to another Vector screencast. My name is Maciej Lenartowicz and today I'm going to show you how to create a very dark print document. And the look I'm going for here will be some sort of a poster or maybe a flyer, well, some kind of a printed document informing folks about an incoming event or a movie perhaps. And yeah, let's get to it. I'm going to start by creating a new document. So I'm going to click File and choose New. Okay, I'm going to name my document. And this is going to be a print document, so you can safely choose one of those presets here, print. And I'm going to go with A4, and it's going to be portrait. Of course, you can always try to use it as perhaps a wallpaper, so you can go with horizontal, but I'm good with vertical. The units I'm gonna mainly use will be millimeters, although I'm gonna input some values in pixels, and color mode CMYK, of course, since we'd like to print that document later, and I'm gonna choose 300 ppi for raster effects. So once I'm ready, I'm gonna click OK. Okay, my document is ready and I'd like to start off by creating a background. So I'm gonna double click this layer and name it BG. On this new layer I'm gonna create a big rectangle and get rid of the fill, of the stroke, sorry. And for the fill I like to use a gradient, and I've got a couple of custom colors I'd like to use here. The first one will be a very dark shade of red, and the CMYK values used here will be 25, 90, 90, and 100. For the other color, I like to use another CMYK value, and this one will be 30, 30, 30, 100. Okay, my gradient is ready. I like to just change it to radial and rotate it 90 degrees. Okay, with my gradient tool, I'm gonna scale it up and flatten it a little, just like so. I'm gonna like this layer, and my background's ready. Let's add some contrast now. I'm gonna create a new layer and name it Glow. I like to create a big ellipse now, and its dimensions are going to be 340 pixels times 340 pixels. Okay, I'm going to position it right in the middle and change its color to CMYK of 0, 85, 70, and 0. Okay, that gives us some nice warm pink color. Okay, I want to create another ellipse. This time the dimensions will be 345 pixels and the height will be 420 pixels. Okay, I want to change the color of this ellipse to pure black. So I'm gonna type in 100, 100, 100, and 100. Okay, I'm gonna center this ellipse right in the middle of our document, and using the layers palette, I'm just gonna drag it on the bottom of the stack. I'm gonna select these two shapes and use the key combination of Ctrl-Alt-B just to blend them together. Okay, the glow is almost ready. The last thing to do is to select it, go to Transparency palette, and choose the Screen Blending mode. Okay, so what I like to do now is to create a big disk, a big circle in the middle of the glow, and it's gonna look like some sort of a planet or a moon blocking out this glow. So I'm gonna create a new layer and call it Planet. On this layer I'm going to create another ellipse. I'm going to use the same dimensions as the ellipse below. So I'm just going to click and enter 340 pixels times 340 pixels. Okay, I'm going to change its color to a gradient. So I'm just going to reset my gradient, choose a radial one, and the first color will be 50, 50, 50, and 100. So very dark black. The other swatch I like to use here will have colors of 25, 90, another 90, and 100. Okay, I'm gonna click here just below the gradient to create another swatch, and the values for this one will be 0, 90, 50, and 90. So this gives us a very dark red. Okay, a couple of more things here. I like to position this gradient, this swatch on the gradient, precisely at 95%. Okay, and the last thing is to move this slider, this diamond-shaped slider, to a location of 85%. Okay, what we have here is a big circle with a very gentle highlight on the outside. So I'm just gonna click it and position it right in the middle of my page, and this creates a nice sort of a glowing effect. Okay, so my glow and my planet are ready, and I like this very dark, kind of sinister effect. But I would like to enhance it a little bit more, add some more light here. So I'm just gonna lock all those layers, and I'm gonna click the BG layer just to create a new layer above it. I'm gonna double click it and rename it to Rays. With this layer selected, I'm gonna use my rectangle tool to create a new rectangle, and the dimensions I'm going for here will be 48 pixels for width and 280 pixels for height. I'm gonna press OK, and this gives me a rectangle. I want to use a gradient to fill it, but I'd like to change the values. For the bottom swatch, I would like to use pure white, but I like to change the opacity to 0. Okay, and the other swatch, I like to use another color here, but the color will be 0, 100, 75, and 0. So a very bright shade of pink. Okay, the last thing here is to change the location of this bottom slider to about 5%, and I like to move this diamond shape to around 75%, and this looks great. Okay, so I have one ray ready, but now I like to use more of them just to populate the bottom of my planet, create sort of an arc of rays or an array of rays. And I'm gonna use that. I'm gonna do that using blends. So I'm gonna grab my ray and position it about here, just underneath my planet. And there's a very neat trick you can use just to reflect this object on the opposite side of your artboard. And I'm gonna do that using my reflect tool, and I'm gonna select it by pressing O. Okay, you can use the reflect tool to symmetrically reflect an object on the other side of your artboard, and a very handy way to that is to use all those anchor points scattered all around your artboard. Now, right now you can see that as long as my smart guides are on, I get all sorts of feedback whenever I hover over an object. For example, here I know I'm over a path, and right, whoa, there's an anchor point. So I can click this one, and I know there's another anchor point just below the first one. So I'm gonna press Shift and Alt to create a copy. I'm gonna click the second anchor point, and this creates its duplicate on the other side of the artboard. Okay, I'm gonna drag out another copy, and holding my Alt key, I'm gonna position it here. Okay, so now I have 3 instances of the same rectangle. Now, I'm about to blend these 3, but to avoid a kind of an awkward effect when this rectangle blends to this one, and this one blends back to the third one, I have to fiddle with the stacking order here in my layers palette. The way Illustrator does it is it blends the first object with the one just below it or on top of it, and later it follows the stacking order. So if I wanna blend my rectangle to the left with the one in the center, those two have to be sort of neighbors here in the layers palette. So I'm gonna click this one, and I see right now it's on the bottom of the stack. I'm gonna leave it there, but now I want my second rectangle to be just on top of the first one. So now when we click it, okay, this one's on the bottom, this one's in the middle, and this one's on the top. So I'm gonna click, 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 and press Ctrl-Alt-V, and this creates a blend. Now I'd like to use some more arrays, so I'm gonna double click the blend tool and choose specify steps, let's say 3. I'm gonna check the preview box to see what I'm doing, and I could use a couple more of these, so maybe I'll type in 4. Okay, this looks better. I'm gonna click OK and go to Object, Expand, and this gives me a set of rays. Alright, so there's a bunch of rays going down here, but I don't like the uniform look of them. So I'm just gonna select them, go to Object, and Ungroup. Okay, now I can safely manipulate all those objects. But before that, I'm gonna select them, go to Transparency, and change their blending option to Screen. Okay, I'm gonna zoom in here a little bit more, and I'm gonna select all of them. I'm gonna shift click on those two here, making sure to deselect them. Next, I'm gonna press Ctrl Shift Alt D to enter my Transform Each dialog box. Here, I'm gonna fiddle with the settings a little bit more. So I'm gonna first of all change the reference points to the top and change their horizontal scaling to 140%. And now that's just a personal preference, but I'm gonna try to move them a little bit horizontally and vertically. So I'm gonna input, for example, 20 millimeters here, 20 millimeters here, and I'm gonna check my preview box. Of course, that's not the transformation I want. I want to introduce a little bit of randomness. So I'm gonna check random as well, and now I can start filling with those settings. I'm gonna reduce them to 5 perhaps. I'm gonna keep applying those changes. If I like them, I'm gonna press OK. If you want to change those a little, if you want the Illustrator to recalculate all those transformation, just check random and keep doing that until you're happy with the result. I like this change, so I'm gonna click OK. I'm just gonna introduce a couple more tweaks here, so I'm gonna grab my black arrow tool and I'm gonna reposition a couple of those rays here, just to make them more random. Maybe I'll drag some of them a little bit down more, and okay, maybe a little bit here, a little bit there. Until until I'm happy with the result. You can always use your scale tool to drag them up or down. I can just fiddle with them until you're satisfied. Well, okay, they're starting to work for me, so I'm gonna settle for it. Okay, so those are the rays on the bottom, and I like to add some more rays on the top. So I'm just gonna Alt click on my layer just to select all those objects here, and now using my rotate tool, I'm just gonna select it or press R. I'm gonna start looking for the center of my page, and it's right here. So I'm gonna click here, and I'm gonna click and drag all those objects. I'm gonna press Shift at the same time, and when I find the 180% degree here, I'm gonna press Alt and release. And this creates a copy. Now, things may look a little bit too uniform here, so it's always a safe bet to grab the black arrow tool and move those rays a little bit. So I'm just gonna click here and move them there and introduce some variance, maybe use my scale tool a little bit more, just to keep things less uniform. Okay. That's actually an overkill. Okay, once I'm happy result, I'm gonna lock this layer. Alright, so the planet, the rays, and the eclipse is ready. Let's add some text. I'm gonna create a new layer, call it text, and I'm gonna choose my text tool. I'm gonna click somewhere about here, change the alignment to center. I'm gonna type in Scarlet Eclipse. I'm gonna scale the text up and move it right in the center. Now here, that's the point, you can use your favorite font. I'm just gonna use Elemental, and that's apparently too big. I'm just gonna scale it down, maybe adjust the tracking, and I'm gonna change the color, and the color will be 0, 30, 10, and 0. So a very bright color. I like to give it a little bit of glow, so I'm gonna go to Appearance panel, click this arrow, stylize, outer glow, and the values I'm gonna use here will be 3 pixels. Oops, 3 pixels. Blur, blending mode screen, opacity 100%, and the color will be just white. Preview. Okay. And now it actually depends on the final effect you're going for, because if you like that to be a poster, you can add some more text down here, maybe a date up there. I'm just gonna add one more text field. So I'm gonna Alt Shift drag here. I'm gonna double click, and I'm gonna enter some other text. For example, the skies turn red this winter. I'm going to scale it down and maybe change the font. And I happen to like the Decker Light font, so I'm gonna use this one here. Let's scale it up, and let's move it back to position here. And our text is ready. My artwork is almost ready. There's only one tweak I'd like to change before I start to texturize that, and this is going to be a minor tweak to this glow around the planet. Well, I don't like this very sharp edge it's not that sharp. I just didn't like the thickness of it. So I'm just gonna unlock the glow layer, and using my direct selection tool, I'm gonna alt click on this outer ring of the glow. Yeah. And I'm gonna change its opacity to 0. And this evens out, well, softens the edge of this transition. I'm gonna lock it back. Our flyer or a poster is almost ready. There's only one touch we'd like to add to it, and that's a texture. So I'm gonna lock my text layer and create a new one. And of course I'm gonna call it texture. Now I'd like to use some sort of a nebula here or a starry night, something that brings out the mood, the feeling of space. And I did a Google search and I looked for a couple of images and I got to like one image. So I'm gonna use it to texture my artwork right now. So I'm gonna choose File, Place. I'm gonna find my artwork, double click it. And that's a very, very large image. It's a regular pixel bitmap, so I'm just gonna center it on my page and scale it down. Just like so. I want to use the maximum of the detail used here. So I'm back here at 66%, and of course you cannot leave this image like this. So I'm gonna go to Transparency Palette and choose one of the available blending modes. Now I encourage you to experiment with those, and you can go with like something like Multiply, which will leave your image very, very dark, or something like Screen, which will on the contrary make it very bright. But I got to like Overlay, so I'm just gonna settle with Overlay for my effect, and maybe move it from side to side a little, reposition my texture, or change it opacity to something lower. Alright, I'm gonna select my texture here and reverse to 100% opacity, since that's the way I like it most. And I'm done here. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and stay tuned for more. Take care. Bye bye.